very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to a brand new series of live interviews brought to you virtually by Theatre by QE2. My name is Chris McHardy. I'm delighted to be your host for the evening. Now, before I welcome our very special guest into the conversation, I just want to take the opportunity to thank our presenting partners. You see them listed to my left. That is Theatre by QE2, Book My Show, of course, Big Fish Comedy, and H2 Productions. I've got to say a massive shout out to Nigel as well. He's on the ones and twos this evening, ensuring that we are coming to you live from the comfort of our own homes. And yes, this is my kitchen behind me. I hope you do enjoy it. Now then, without further ado, I want to welcome a very special individual into the conversation. He is a Liverpool Football Club legend. This individual won 5 league titles, 3 League Cups, an FA Cup. He also helped the club win their 4th European Cup back in 1984. He spent 7 years at the football club. He made over 350 appearances for LFC. It gives me great pleasure to say a very good evening to Mr. Mark Lawrenson. How are you, Mark?
I'm all good, Chris. Thank you very much indeed. Glad you said good evening, because I was about to give you good afternoon, of course.
Well, it's good afternoon somewhere, my friend. It's good evening over here in the United Arab Emirates. Let me say as well, nice new haircut. COVID-19, that's what it does to people.
No, it wasn't COVID. It was about 4 days before COVID, because I'd taken to kind of wearing a cap because it was starting to disappear. My hair, that is. So I suddenly thought one day, you know what? Local barber's in. Number 2, I think it was. And so I didn't tell anyone. And it's been really, really funny just walking in the village where I live, and people are looking at you thinking, is it or isn't it? It's been great fun.
Well, it suits you. I'll say that to you. Listen, we're going to reminisce. I've got you for the next 45 minutes. There is opportunities for anyone viewing this to get your questions in on Facebook. I know we're on various platforms. Facebook is the place an awful lot of you are watching us. I've got to start, though, Mark, by asking, how are you, first and foremost? This unprecedented past 10, 11 weeks, it's caught us all on the hop. Have you been keeping well?
No, I should say I'm keeping really well. I've been walking miles, cycling miles, a bit of cheating really, because I've also got an electric bike that I've been on, as well as the push bike, and I just feel really, really healthy. I've actually lost a little bit weight, so it's been good. When I say it's been good, it's been, you've endured it more than anything. I've had enough now, like everybody, I think, in this country. Yeah. But hey, we've been really fortunate. We don't really know anyone who's really suffered as well, so it doesn't quite seem the same. But it's very sad times as well, of course.
No doubt about that. It does put everything into perspective, is what it does, Mark. That being said, football, the beautiful game, it is escapism for so many people. You, like me, I'm sure, massively excited for its return come June 17th.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm not bothered what guise it comes back in. If it's behind closed doors, which it looked like it's going to be, then that's absolutely fine. I think, in life, because of what we've been through, you need something to look forward to. Look, we know there's millions of people, certainly in the UK, who don't like football, but we also know there's millions who do. And what's really difficult, it's like today, today's a Saturday, and every time I wake up on a Saturday, I'm normally working, and it's just, you know what? I don't even know what day it is at the moment. So yeah, we really, really miss it. The fun about it, obviously, the way the league's going to go, etc. So looking forward to the start.
Well, let's talk about that league title, because let's be frank, it's going to be heading back to Liverpool, first time in 30 years. Give us a semblance of what that will mean, Mark. You have played for the football club. You've lived in the city. 30 years from their last league title. The party's going to go on for bloody months, is it not?
It is going to go on for months, and it's going to shut the Manx up, which is also good, both City and United, of course. But it's just been an awful long time coming. If you've thought 30 years ago, when the lads obviously were presented with the trophy, that they wouldn't win it again for 30 years. I mean, they'd have stuck you in the white coat and put you in the van and taking you to the nut house. But it's been a long, long time coming. But I think where they've been lucky, really, the club, is that they've won cup competitions, which has kind of softened the blow. But it's the ultimate thing. If you can win your league, apart from kind of winning a European Cup, if you are the best team in that league, and we know, how difficult it is to win the Premier League, then it's a massive achievement. And I think, in large part, not just the players, but also the manager. I think I hate comparing him with anybody else because he is Jurgen Klopp, and he is his own man. But there are elements of Shankly in there. He gets the football club, he gets the history, he gets the people that work for the club, massive influence, and he gets the supporters, and they certainly get him.
Yeah, before we touch on Jurgen, and I want to touch on men that you played under as well, Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan, being two of those men. 30 years, Mark, what do you put it down to? You're absolutely right. In 1990, you asked any Liverpool fan then and told them it would be 30 years that they would be celebrating another league title. They would have put you in a madhouse. What has constituted, what has played its part in this 30-year wait, in your opinion?
Well, football's always about players. You can have the best managers in the world, but it's all about the players. And you'd have to argue that Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea, they've just had better players than us, basically. And where, of course, in the 80s we could dominate, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch in terms of players that we wanted to come and sign for us. There was no great competition because we were the best team in the country and arguably the best team in Europe on many occasions. So, players wanted to come and play for us. But, once the money's come in, the Abramovich and Manchester United have always got money anyway, and Arsenal, etc., and Manchester City, it's just made it difficult. It's not a given anymore that Liverpool get the best players, or I should say it wasn't a given. But I think when players now look at the way that we play, and all right, you might be able to go and play for Manchester City for another £5,000 a week extra, but if you seriously love football and the way that we play it, then we've got a better chance of attracting better players even now when we win the league. So hopefully this will just be the start of many more.
Now, I want to get your thoughts. You've played in a phenomenal Liverpool side. I know John Barnes a few weeks ago said that the 1990 team, he felt that that's a side that would take on the current Liverpool team. Where does this team for you stack up when you compare it to your own? I know you've already compared Jurgen to Shanks. Where does this team for you stack up?
Oh, well, it's up there. I don't think there's any doubt about that. What this team now has to do and go on to do is obviously just become serial winners. Obviously, they've done that with cup competitions, but I said to you before that the league's the biggest thing because it's only 38 games now. It used to be 42 in our day, but that's the ultimate test. We play in all the 4 seasons, as it were. Injuries, loss of form, other competitions, a number of games, all those kind of things. But to be up there, I think with the best ever teams that Liverpool have ever had, whoever you decide that they are, they have to have that consistency of winning the league, basically.
And that front three as well, Mo Salah, Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino, an awful lot written about all three. Is Firmino the most important of the trio?
Yeah, he's a glue for the other two. And you get the impression with Roberto, he's not that worried about scoring goals. He seems to be happy, or just as happy, actually creating chances, obviously, for the way that for the likes of Salah, etc., and Mane. But I think that the thing with him as well is I think he's really, really difficult for teams to play against because he just wanders into positions where defenders don't come out to pick him up. Holding midfield players are a little bit reluctant just to sit on him, and he's such a clever footballer with a great first touch. And the other two are just so strong and so direct. I mean, the three of them, I said probably about 18 months ago, I thought they were the best front three in the world in league football, and everybody sort of went, "Well, what about the three at Paris Saint-Germain?" Well, there's no doubt in their fantastic abilities. They don't work hard enough as a Liverpool three at all. So. That's why I think they're the best. They're so consistent, hardly ever get injured. But the pace at which they play, Chris, is very, very difficult to players to play against.
From when you talk to the boys, and I know you're in and around the club, I know you do a lot of work, obviously the BBC in the UK, I know you do a lot of work for the Football Club TV as well. What do the players say about Jurgen? Are they all absolutely, because they give off the vibe that they are just loving their football. It is a joy to go into Melwood training park, isn't it?
Yeah, Listen, it always helps when you're winning, though, because you love everybody. That's the first thing. But I think Emil Heskey, was it Emil Heskey? No, that wasn't one of the others. Who's the big centre forward who we sold to Crystal Palace? Benteke.
Christian Benteke, yeah.
He said that Klopp is your friend, but he's not your best friend. I think that's a fab explanation. To be quite honest with you, look, I've been at Wellwood, and Klopp treats everybody the same way. The LFC TV guys have a little room there because they're forever interviewing, players, etc., and Jurgen and stuff, and it's their own room. And Klopp knocks on the door to go in. I mean, he runs a football club; he could do anything, but he actually knocks on the door, and he goes in and don't tell anyone. But I think he has a sly ciggy now and again, and he says, "Do you mind if I open the window so it doesn't smell and stuff like that?" And they say, "Yeah, absolutely, no problem whatsoever." But just the way that he's around people. Everybody who works at Melwood, he just treats them the same, whether they're Mo Salah, Van Dijk, all those kind of players. Just everybody is just what you see is what you get.
The football club's got a rich history of men like that, good men, proper men is what I would describe them. You've mentioned Shanks already, Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan, etc. I want to talk actually about you now, Mark. And listen, for those of you watching this, we'll have a competition question in just a moment to win a signed Mark Lawrenson shirt. I want to take you back though, if I can, Laura. I want to get some anecdotes from you. You joined the football club in 1981. You were telling me off air before we jumped in the little green room before this, that there was a number of clubs that were interested in you back in 1981, wasn't there?
There was Arsenal, Man United and Liverpool, virtually all at the same time. And Terry Neal was manager of Arsenal, and my first set of talks with him, he actually offered me less money than I was earning at Brighton. But the other thing about that was I had a 10-year contract at Brighton, 10-year contract, which is unbelievable when you think about it. And then Big Ron Atkinson was manager of Manchester United, and he was waiting for Frank Stapleton, who they were signing, to go to a tribunal. So they weren't quite sure how much money they would have. He was trying to broker a deal, which was 3 Manchester United players go to Brighton, and also Brighton receives some money for me to go to Manchester United. But he just kept saying to me, he just kept ringing me up honestly, regularly, and going, "You've not signed for them," as in Liverpool. "You've not signed for them." He said, "Don't sign for them yet. I'll give you more money." And I went, "Ron, listen, once I meet them, mate, it could be all over." And in all honesty, it was. I met Bob Paisley, John Smith, the old chairman, or Sir John Smith, sorry, I should say, Peter Robinson, who ran the club unbelievably. And I met them in the Ariel Hotel at the side of the runway at Heathrow. They'd flown in from Switzerland pre-season, and honestly, within 10 minutes, Chris, I was done. Money, everything, talk about where I was going to play, all that kind of stuff. 10 minutes, because I'd said to the people at Brighton that I would leave eventually, and they didn't need the money anyway because they needed it for survival in Division 1. But I said to them, I only want to go to a team where I want to win trophies, and I think I made the right decision. Of course, Liverpool had just beaten Madrid in Paris to win the European Cup. I mean, the Alan Kennedy cross that was never ever going to go in, but it went in. But so it took 10 minutes, easy, very easy.
Took 10 minutes, you've said there, Mark. 900 grand though, I think that was a club record at the time. And I think you were telling me that made you, I think, the 3rd most expensive player in the country.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of an aside to that, which is because I included VAT on the top of it, which was 12%. So it took it over $1 million. So I was the 3rd highest transfer fee after Trevor Francis and a guy called Steve Daly, who played for Wolves and signed for Manchester City. So it's my story and I'm sticking to it. £1 million plus. Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with that. The pressure, though, did you feel the pressure of the transfer fee at all?
No, I kept telling myself that it was really nothing to do with me. It was something that obviously, Brighton, basically, they paid $112,000 for me. So they got their money back 8 times over. They knew that I was obviously a saleable asset. You kind of put yourself under the pressure, though, because, the first time I walked into Anfield, and you see all the the boards with all the trophies and all the wins and all the pictures and all the great players and stuff like and stuff. So straight away you're thinking, wow. But Bob Paisley was brilliant with me because he just said to me, he said, how many different positions do you play for Brighton? And I said, half a dozen. He said, well, we know where we want you to play, which is alongside.
There you go, Mark. Sorry, one or two gremlins in the system there. It was a good story you were telling me there. It was so good that they cut you off. But listen, let's go back to it. I want to pick up what you were saying there in terms of feeling the pressure, but Bob just instantly made you at ease around the top players you were with.
Yeah. And the night I signed, it was very late in the end. And in those days, you had nothing like your medical that you would have now. And I just basically went into the old treatment room under the old stand there. And there were two doctors for Liverpool, brothers, two Irish guys, and one of them would suck the poison from your blood, and the other one, let's just say, wasn't the best. So if you ever needed stitching, like at half time and stuff, he always made sure it was trying to be like the one who could stitch you, not the other one, because he'd disappear in the boardroom, have a bit of whiskey, and get a bit of Dutch curries before he sewed you up. And so I was having a kind of mini kind of medical and stuff, and I'm in there with the doctor for about 20 minutes, and Bob came in, and it would have been probably about 10:30 at night because we'd driven up from London, and Bob obviously was getting on a little bit and wanted to go home to have his cocoa and stuff, and he just said to the doc, he said, "Doc, what's taking so long?" And the doc, in fairness to him, he just said, "Look, you've just paid over £1 million for this gentleman, Bob, and we need to make sure that he's all right." So Bob turned to me and he said, "How many games did you play for Brighton last year?" And I said, "I think I missed 2. I think it was like 58 or something." And he went, "Doc, he's fine. Let's do it." So that was the end of the medical. And Chris, 3 months later, I actually went for my scans and my X-rays. I mean, how mad is that? And they paid over £1 million.
That's incredible. That gives you a little insight into Bob himself. What was he like? I mean, we've obviously read the stories and the success that he had at the football club. Did that sum him up, that story there? Was he all tactics? I mean, give us a genuine insight into what Bob was like.
Bob picked players to fit into the system. And there was you never got taken aside saying, right, you need to do this, you need to do that. The famous story of Graham Souness, which is true, when he'd signed and he asked Joe Fagan, what do you want me to do? And he said, "We just paid 450 grand for you said, just do what you're supposed to do, basically, and a couple of swear words at the end of it, as you can imagine. So, but Bob was, but the best thing I would say about Bob was it was like your granddad in charge of the team. He overseed anything. You really liked him, but he was a master of the unfinished sentence. And I think generally it was, Ronnie Moran, Joe, they kind of did the day to day, and they all kind of then got together and decided, if you're going to drop people, if they're going to change it around and stuff. But that the next morning after I'd had my medical underneath the main stand, Bob came to pick me up at the Atlantic Tower Hotel near the Liver Buildings and stuff. And so the concierge ran me in my room. I stayed overnight and stuff. And he told Mr. Paisley's at the front door waiting for you. So I was all ready. I'd hardly slept. It was great for me because I was going home because my parents lived in Lytham St. Anne's, which was less than an hour away. So it was happy days. Anyway, I had my best suit on and everything. And I walked out of the door and I just saw a gold Ford Granada. And I thought, who the hell drives one of them? And I suddenly looked and it was Bob. It was Bob's car, right? And he got up, Chris, honest on my kid's life, he got out of the car and he had his slippers on, right? And he had this like a mustardy colour cardigan on. And I thought, oh my goodness me. And when I looked, he'd obviously had like fried egg for breakfast because some of it was down his lapel. And I just said to myself, this is the club for me. Absolutely. What's it all about? Fabulous.
That is amazing, Mark. Is there and I appreciate it's maybe a bit difficult, but was there one halftime team talk that really encapsulates that you can go back to and you think, that was Bob at his absolute best? Was there a moment?
I think probably that would be more Joe, but I tell you what happened with me was that we probably 2 or 3 months into the season, and I started at left back and all that, and I was now playing centre back and everything, and occasionally in midfield. And we played at Arsenal, and we were the main game on Match of the Day. It was a Saturday. We were main game on Match of the Day that night, and I just happened to have quite a good game, and I came out from the back with the ball and set 1 or 2 things up and all that kind of stuff. Never thought a lot of it, apart from obviously watching. Jimmy Hill was like giving me like rare praise and everything and stuff, which was also good. Would have been a good time to go in for a new contract, wouldn't it? And on the Monday at Melwood, where we're walking onto the training ground, and Bob was just next to me, and he said, Mark, did you see Match of the Day on Saturday? And I thought he was testing me to actually find out if I'd been out on the Raz or not, but obviously he wasn't. And I said, yeah, boss, I did. And he just said to me, so did everybody else. And obviously that's all he said. So I took it to like, whatever I'd done coming out, and then people were watching it, working out exactly what it was. And that's what he was brilliant at, that little stuff like that just made you think all the time.
Yeah, 2 league titles and 2 league cups in those seasons, 82, 83. 84 is the season that an awful lot of people remember because I think you became the first club, forget United's treble in 99, Liverpool became the first club to win 3 trophies in a season that year. You won the League Cup, and of course the UEFA Champions League, the European Cup as it was back then, 3 trophies in that year. But that was Fagan in charge. Give us an insight, Mark, if you can. When Bob leaves the football club, what did Joe say? How on earth did you, having lost a presence like Bob, how did the success just continue? And many, well, it actually, you increased, your fortunes got even better in that 84 season.
Yeah, well, Bob was still around the building. He had some title, I'm not quite sure what it was, but Joe was clever. Joe used to speak really low at you, so you had to kind of almost bend into him to hear what he said. Occasionally he would go mad and it was like wow. When Joe went mad, which is very occasionally, everybody in the building would hear it. But he was really, really clever with Joe, and he watched you all the time, and you felt that he was watching you all the time. But he didn't really change, to be quite honest with you. He was, everybody. I said to you that Bob was like your granddad in charge of the team, but he was ruthless if he needed to leave you out. And Joe was actually still the same, and he had Ronnie Moran with him, and I think Roy Evans stepped up a bit, Tom as well, Tom Saunders as well was still very much involved. But I think the biggest thing with Joe was actually when he was at manager, Chris, which was my first season, and it was the December. So We got beat at home against Manchester City. That our pitch was horrendous, but we got beaten 3-1 at home, I think. And Brucey didn't have the best of days. And we all came in afterwards, and Bob went absolutely berserk, seriously. And even like Tomo, Kenny, Graham Souness, all the old boys who've been there, Phil Neal, who've been there a long time, all suddenly went, wow. He really, really gave it to us. But the thing with Joe as well was he'd make you ask yourself a question. So what he would do if we weren't playing well when he was manager, he'd come in and he'd say, right, there's some of you not doing it. And the first thing you think of is does he mean me? So straight away, you're then asking yourself, crack, I need to pull my finger out. But that's what he did. And he never named names. He just basically went, it's all of you or it's not. That's where it was really, really clever. But he never changed. A great personality. He liked to laugh, but they were just used to winning, weren't they? Him and Ronnie. I mean, Ronnie was a sergeant major, as everybody knew, and Ronnie gave you basically a blasting every single day. But you sort of got used to it in the end, and it was just that the whole boot room thing. They would sit there on the Thursday afternoon in the boot room, so there would be Ronnie and Joe and Roy and Tom Saunders, John Bennison. And they'd all be in there. And we used to say they're pushing and running. And you weren't allowed in. You weren't allowed into the boot room. So you had to knock on the door. And I remember that I'd had to stay at Melwood to do something, like some charity thing. And you have to ask permission from Ronnie, that take your card, because we all went on the bus together, all those. And he'd look at you as though he'd say, do you really need to go? And I'm, oh, sorry, Ronnie, it's only for charity. Anyway, so I got back late. It's a Thursday. We're playing away on the Saturday. So normally, on the Friday, you come in with your overnight bag because you get on the bus and you're playing wherever on the Saturday. So there's no team list or anything went up in the dressing room. So I'm the last in. They've all gone. So I get in the shower and I come out. I think, crikey, I wonder if I need to bring my stuff in if I'm travelling. I obviously presumed that it was. So I went and knocked on the door and I'm like, it was like massive, what? As in, you're a nuisance. Put my head around the door and I said, I gaffer, do I need to bring my stuff in to travel? And he went straight away. Joe said to me, he went, why, you're playing well enough. I mean, that's what they were like. And I said, well, yeah, I think so. And he went, and he looked around the room at the others and he said, what do you think, guys? Shall we let him travel with us or not? Obviously taking the mickey and stuff, and said, yeah, go on then, you'll be all right. I mean, that's just the way they were. And they were brilliant at playing everything down. It was always played down. I remember Rushy scored 5 against, I think it was Luton at home. Training Monday morning at Melwood, and he miscontrolled the ball and Ronnie Moran just shouted and he went, same player. And that's what they did. That's so same player as in, you scored 5 on Saturday, but you're crap in training this morning. And that's exactly the way they managed. And whether it was Joe or whether it was Bob, they were exactly the same.
Some great some of this, Laurel. I want to just break away now because I appreciate a lot of people are viewing this. We've actually got a competition. I'm going to say a massive shout out to the retail guys, LFC, right here in the UAE, because they've kindly stumped up a shirt that, Laurel, I know you're going to sign. So this is a chance for all of you viewing this evening to win a Mark Lawrenson signed Liverpool shirt. Now, the LFC retail, it is the latest official, all the latest official Liverpool products. You can head to their stores, the Dubai Mall, Lower Ground near the Fountain, and Wafi as well. You can also find them online, Amazon and Noon.com. So a massive shout out to those boys. They have kindly donated that shirt. Laura's going to sign it. All you've got to do to be in the chance of winning this, one lucky viewer will win this signed shirt this evening. You've just got to tell us, how many goals did Mark score for Liverpool? How many goals did Laurel score for Liverpool? And I guess that's a nice place to pick up. Don't reveal the answer, Laurel. But what was your best goal? Can you remember them?
I don't know how many goals I scored, because I played in midfield quite a bit. I had a spell where I think I scored about half a dozen in 10 games, I seem to recall. But my best goal ever was, so if I take you back, and I said to you before that I just wanted to win competitions, and cups and stuff like that. So my first season, and we were 14th in the league at Christmas, that Manchester City defeat. Then we went on to win the league. But the last day of the season, we had to beat Tottenham at home. Hoddle, I played in midfield that day and I was the closest to Hoddle of anyone on the pitch. And he's hit a worldie from 35 yards. It sailed into the top corner and we're thinking, oh, crikey, we're going to lose. And I think it was, who would have won it? I think it would have been Ipswich. I think they were second at the time. So he scores a worldie. We're 1-0 down at half time. We're attacking the Kop in the second half. And I scored with a header against Ray Clements. Of all people, the first time he'd been back since he left, because he left the day I signed for Liverpool. He obviously trying to tell me something. But I scored with a header, and I know everybody exaggerates, Chris, because it's, it was literally about 15 yards out, and it just sailed over everyone and went into the top corner. And then I was lucky enough to make the second goal for, I think it was Ronnie Whelan or Kenny, so we won 3-1. But that would be the most important, because it kind of changed the game that day. I mean, I scored in the semi-final of the European Cup against Panathinaikos, but I don't tell anybody that we were already 4-0 up from the first leg. So, hey, it sounds good.
Let's talk about some of the boys that you played with as well, because you'd name-checked a few there, and it is amazing, the roll call of incredible players that you had. And I'm delighted to say, as you can tell from my accent, I'm a proud Scot. And it was the spine of the team was formed from Scotland. Alan Hansen, yourself, of course, in there. Then you had Graham Souness and King Kenny. Alan Hansen, I want to start with him. Does he get the credit that he deserves, Alan?
He would from me. The game was too easy for him. He never... If you used to watch us come off the pitch in winter, I'd be covered in muck and blood and absolutely everything. And he was pristine. He was like he was on the catwalk, Anthony, just walk in the dressing room, take his kit off, get in the shower and go home. But people forget with Al, he wasn't just a major talent at football. He played, obviously, for Scotland at football. He played golf for Scotland and also squash. So that tells you, the abilities that he had. And I just saw him the other day. Actually, Al's not that interested in football, never has been. But the thing with him was it was just so easy. He was fab to play with. And I'll tell you something that very, very few people know or never heard of. Did you know that at school, obviously different schools together, we both learnt Latin?
I did not know that.
There you go.
So did you ever speak in Latin to one another so that the strikers wouldn't pick up on you what you're telling each other?
No, because we didn't really talk to each other. We just had this kind of telepathy or whatever. But occasionally we went, mea culpa, which you will know what mea culpa means, I'm sure. My fault.
No, I don't actually.
My fault. It means my fault. Yeah.
Surely it was never Alan's fault, though.
Oh, no, he never made a mistake in his life. Behave yourself.
What about Graham? I've heard a few stories, some flattering, some not so flattering. Give us an insight into Graham. Was his bite as bad as his bark?
It was worse. It was, I mean, Graham basically ran the team. And I just spoke to you about Joe there when Joe got appointed, and the first training day of the season, the new season where Joe's now the new manager, Graham went to see him, was called in to see him, I think, just to tell us where we're going pre-season for our pre-season trip. And Graham came in, closed the door, and he said, right, he said, a lot of people outside this building think this fella's going to fail. Joe, of course. He said, they think he's going to fail, and we're going to prove that he's not. Graham was unbelievable that season. I mean, Graham never got the recognition from anybody else in any other team, because he used to chop up most of them in half. But he was an unbelievable player. You ask Kenny, they had a phenomenal kind of rapport between the two of them. You could pass the ball to Graham when he's surrounded with three players, whatever. He loved it. He was just a top player, but also a top bloke. And when he was captain, probably a little bit later than he should have been, in all honesty, he was even better. He was even better. And I mean, I could tell you loads of stories, but it would probably take far too long. But he bore a grudge as well. And if he'd been in a match and he sorted somebody out, his psyche was the next time that they played against each other, Graham would make sure that he sorted the other fella out again, so the other fella didn't even have a chance to do him. So, my goodness me, yeah, some of the stories about Graham are fantastic. When I signed, I was saying that night when I was at Anfield having my medical, And Graham, I saw Graham on his way out. He'd been in for treatment, and he had a black eye. And I said to him, "Oh, how are you doing?" And he just, welcome me, welcome to the club. You'll love it, all that kind of stuff. I said, "What happened?" He said there was three of them. He said, "I think I managed to do two, but the third one got a lucky hit on me." And I thought, crikey, what a football club this is.
And that sums up Graham, that bulldog spirit. But he was a heck of a player, though. It's a bit lazy to suggest that he was someone that just reduced players. He was, you've said that he was a big, larger than life personality. He's a heck of a player as well.
He was the heartbeat of our team. He really, seriously was. His passing was sensational, and his vision, and his work rate as well. He was a little bit heavy. He used to wear like a black bin bag when he trained underneath all his kit, just so he could sweat off, because he was just a little bit on the heavy side and stuff. But he was, people used to say like Kenny would be the first name on the team sheet, and he would be because he was a genius, and then Rushy maybe. But you know anybody who's played with Graham, and he was a top player. Just never won any awards because loads of other players in other clubs just hated playing against him, and they'd never vote for him basically.
King Kenny, I want to get to him because obviously Kenny Dalglish. I mean, give me a story. Sum him up for me in a story. How good he was, and
I just when I go around and occasionally speak after dinner and stuff, and I just say he was a genius that you probably get in football one every 10, 15, 20 years. He couldn't run, he couldn't head it, and he had a great big backside, and he was a genius. And he just basically had radar. I mean, his relationship with Graham, but also with Rushy, was absolutely phenomenal. And what story can I tell you that could possibly put out? Well, this here's one. Remember, obviously, so Aintree Grand National, and so we take it in turns with Everton, where one of us would play lunchtime on a Saturday, so we could go to the National in the afternoon. And this particular time, it was our time and our turn to go. And when I moved to Southport, which I still live now, and Kenny was basically our gardens backed on to each other and stuff. So I remember we gave him a lift home in the cab, himself and Marina, me and my better half. And as we got out of the cab, myself and Vanessa got out of the cab to go in the house. He went, "Oh, hold on a minute, I just need to get out for a minute, right?" And he got out and he puked up my drive. And I went, "What the hell?" And he went, "Must have been something I ate." But you know what? When as a player, he hardly ever drank at all. Hardly ever. I mean, we did all the time. We would celebrate like long and hard into night, but he hardly ever drank. But let's just say he's made up for it since he stopped playing.
a quiet man about. I mean, obviously, had all your respect. I'm sure you, like all the other boys, thought Kenny was a genius, and he is. He was a genius. But what was he like around the other players? Unassuming?
Yeah, unassuming. And he'd do all the interviews, and he'd be world class every week. And he would just say, "Well, I can't do it without the other 10." And that's the way he was all the time. But he was great with players. But people haven't really seen it. He's got a fantastic sense of humour. But when he was playing, when he was manager, you never really saw that. I think a lot of people now, when he managed it, obviously Newcastle managed at Blackburn, etc. Now they kind of understand the way that he is. But he had a real wicked sense of humour, really seriously did. But he loved all the Mickey taking and stuff, which in any dressing room of sport is a major thing.
Can I ask, Mark, of all the players that you played with, and again, there's too many to name in terms of, you've mentioned Rushy there. Who was the player that you always felt never got the recognition, that all you boys in Melwood on a Monday would look at him and go, "Jeepers, he is a heck of a player that just doesn't get the adulation"?
Probably Stevie Nick. He was a bit like me insofar, not that way, but a bit like me, where he could play in all sorts of different positions. I think he had size 13 boots. They were made at Camel Laird. They were that big, the shipbuilders. But he just never got flustered with anything. Just got on with it. He was the brunt of everybody. I mean, he wouldn't have been the brightest, Chris. Let's put it that way. But he just got on with it every week, and his performance was always 8 out of 10. And everybody absolutely loved him. He came back for, I can't remember what we had, not too long ago. And, he lives in America now and stuff.
And he came back, and we were literally, I think, nearly everybody turned up from the 80s. Even the lads who'd only played 1 or 2 games, and it was just, I can't tell you, it was just fabulous. But within 20 seconds, it was like being back in that dressing room, and nothing changed. We just slaughtered him, absolutely slaughtered, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it, and he was bonkers. Really, seriously, was bonkers.
Listening to you there, Laurel, talk about you guys getting together and reminiscing about the good old days. I always ask this of former, not just footballers, of any sportsmen or women. I mean, do you miss it? Do you miss it?
Yeah, you miss. I'll tell you what you miss. You miss being fit. That's the first thing. You forget how fit you were. And, you know, the other thing about it, Chris, is you could drink and eat whatever you wanted, but you trained every day. So that really wasn't an issue. And by the way, our diet in those days was pathetic when you look at what they eat now and stuff. But you miss that dressing room. You really, seriously, just the whole thing, you know, good days, bad days, indifferent days, whatever kind of, it was just fabulous. And I think that's the thing about teams. When you get a good team in terms of, you know, skill, ability, will to win, all those kind of things, it's great. But you do need that other thing, which is like, you know, even on your bad days, you can kind of laugh at each other. Listen, we had loads of scraps. You know, training would flare up. I remember Graham Souness knocking Alan Kennedy out on the very first day I trained when we were in Madrid. Just one punch it took, and it was, I don't know whether it was, yes, sparked him, no problem. And Joe just went, "What do you do that for?" And he went, "He was getting on my nerves." He went, "Shake hands, let's get on with it." And that was my first day of training. We were in Madrid on a pre-season friendly. So it's, you know, it's like, it's just the way it was. And that was also the day when we played Atletico, because obviously the lads had beaten Real 2 months earlier in the European Cup. And it was Bruce's debut. And Bob Paisley just said to him, he said, "Right, Bruce," he said, "no, it's only a friend." He said, "but it's full. There's 50,000 people in here." He says, "But what I don't want you to do is react to the crowd." He said, "Just get on and play and concentrate." Nothing's happening in this game after about 15 minutes or something. And we just hear this massive roar from behind our goal. And we kind of look, what the hell's he doing now? And they were throwing oranges at him. And he was pretending to eat them, and he was lobbing them back at all the supporters. They were going mad on the line. I mean, Bob went nuts at half time, and hey, that's just the way that it was.
Of course, Brucey he played a key role in 1984, that European Cup final. Is that your crowning moment of your career, Mark, winning that European Cup?
Yeah, but let me tell you something about Brucey. He went the wrong way for all 5. You do know that, don't you? And I mean, you know, we slaughtered him after the match because he was giving it the big, oh, it's the wobbly knees and all that kind of stuff. You weren't near saving any one of them. What you're on about? Yeah, because I think that unless you kind of won a World Cup or a Euros with your country, it's the biggest accolade is to be the best team in Europe. So absolutely, and of course, as you know, I mean, the final was in Rome and everything that incurred and stuff. But I think we won the competition that year away from home. All our performances were fabulous away from home. I think we won on three or four different places as well when the games were really, really tight. And you could feel the sense that you always sometimes when you go into competitions, you just get a sense sometimes that it's your time. And that obviously certainly it was that year.
Give us an insight, Mark. The 5 penalty takers that night, were they set in stone, or was a conversation had before the shootout?
We'd been in Israel for a week. Can you imagine teams doing that? Now going to Israel, and we used to play the national team in Israel as soon as we got there before we were too drunk, right? We played the national team, and I remember Joe saying to us, "Right, we're here for another 6 days, but we're training. So I think he used to say to us, 'Don't get arrested.'" He never kind of said, "Behave yourself." He just went, "Don't get arrested," which of course, and there was a moment basically on that trip when 2 or 3 of them could have been arrested. So we trained there all week, got back on the Saturday, trained on the Monday, the finals on the Wednesday in Rome. And we trained on the Monday, and 5-a-side as normal, 2-touch, all that kind of stuff. I remember Joe just walking onto the pitch and saying, "Right, stop." And we thought, "What's wrong?" He said, "Stop, you're ready." He just knew we were ready, basically. And we were all starting to walk off, and he went, "Oh, I've forgotten. just in case we haven't won 3-0 after extra time or after 90 minutes, we need to practice the penalties. And I'm sure you've heard the story. So we had like apprentices then. There's no such thing now, is there? But so the five takers took 5 against the apprentices. We got beat 4-2 or 3-2 or something. And Joe, as only Joe would, just stood there and he went, we'll just have to beat him in normal time or extra time then, and off we walked. But yeah, the five penalties. I think the thing with Steve and Nick, who took the first one, he said, I'll take one as long as I could take the first one, which obviously is what happened. I mean, I don't know if you know the story, but you know the captain of Roma that night was a guy called his surname was Di Napoli, and he actually missed a penalty. And this is a really sad story actually, because 10 years to the day he committed suicide. So you talk about penalty shootouts, something that obviously really, really, really just completely got into him, and unfortunately he took his own life. 10 years to the day.
Wow. Were you at all on that list? Where had you stuck up your hand? Had that gone to sudden death? Would you have been 11 or 12 on that list?
No, I'd have been 10. No, sorry, 9, because Brucey wanted to take one, but you couldn't have trusted him. So me and Hanson were in the centre circle. We had a little bit of a mini spat about who was going 9 and who was going 10, and then it was, no, you go 9. I'll just wouldn't have done any of that stuff. But yeah, once it was getting towards 5, and if Alan had missed and we were going on, it was time for the adrenaline rush. Not.
And then when your time came to an end at the football club, Laura, I was in conversation this past week with Paul Lambert, and he was very candid. He said the whole Borussia Dortmund, the 15 months that he spent there, of course, he won the European Cup. That was 23 years to the very day last Thursday. And he said leaving Dortmund, he was very honest. He said his first 3 months at Celtic, he was miserable. He wasn't enjoying it. When you left Liverpool, did you suffer? Did you have a few months of just missing the camaraderie, the size of the football club?
Well, people forget that I'd had that serious injury, my Achilles.
Achilles, that's
I came back. Yeah, I came back and played. I couldn't run, and I still got a winner's medal. And the club sent me to Harley Street. Eventually, basically, what happened was my right ankle was the furthest part away from my heart, which is important because it has to pump the blood around and stuff. And I'd damaged my ankle ligaments playing for Brighton. So consequently, my blood supply was hopeless. So they tried to get me to do all different things, go to all sorts of different places. As I said, went to Harley Street. Then I went to a place in Shropshire. In fact, there was me, Jim Beglin, and Kevin McDonald. Those two had serious leg breaks, and I was still struggling with my Achilles. And we went for 2 days. And I went to see the specialist. And this guy, basically, he got people who had been in car accidents, etc., really bad leg injuries. He was trying to make them or get them to walk again. So that's the kind of person that I was dealing with. I remember went in the office to see him first day, and he said, "Right," he said, "I've got all your stuff." He said, "The club have rung me up and everything like that. We'll do a series of tests and everything." And he said, "Tomorrow," that was Thursday morning. He said, "Tomorrow night before you leave to go back," he said, "I'll let you know what I think." So I went in about 3:00 the next afternoon. And he looked at me and he just went, "Are you insured?" And actually, I was the first person ever at the football club to be insured. I'd asked for it in one of my contracts, which I don't know why I did it. And I said yes. And he went, "Take the money." Just like that. And you know what? It was what I wanted to hear because I knew I was struggling. So basically, I left at 30. I left on a Thursday morning before, I can't remember, we were due to play at the weekend. And on the next morning, I was manager of Oxford in the same league as Liverpool. I was the youngest manager ever at that level. I was, 30? So, yeah, I didn't have time to think about it, Chris, is the answer.
It leads on really nicely because Haith, and it's great that Haith's viewing this. I know Haith very well, a huge Liverpool fan. He's asking, in actual fact, just on that, you said earlier, good players. Good players make good managers in the sense that if you've got a good players, doesn't necessarily who's in charge, you've got a good bunch of boys that are running out there on a Saturday. What was it that you weren't able to replicate the success that you had as a player into the dugout, Mark? It was Oxford and Peterborough. What kind of conspired against you a little bit?
It's a big fat so-and-so called Robert Maxwell. Basically, Robert Maxwell owned Oxford, but he also owned Derby, and he basically pinched Dean Saunders off us because Dean was playing for me. Kevin Maxwell was my chairman. Kevin was my age, so we're like early 30s, but we were doing fine, absolutely fine. And I got Dean to sign a new contract. All sorts of teams wanted him. October of the next season, because I'd signed in the March, Maxwell just said to Kevin, right, Saunders comes to Derby tonight. Kevin rang me up and he said, Dean Saunders can't play today. He's going to sign for Derby. And I said, he can stuff it. So I played him, and I remember we scored with a penalty. But he went, and I just walked out. I fell out with them. And in fact, I got sacked. I actually got sacked. I've got a letter somewhere. I got sacked by Kevin Maxwell, for basically threatening to resign, which was weird. I didn't want to be there anyway, but it was just a strange one. But also, the thing with that is, just rewind a couple of days, because that's the Saturday when Mr. Maxwell said we're taking Dean Saunders. Kevin rang me that night, and I'd had a couple of beers, and I said to Kevin, it's absolutely ridiculous. How can anybody manage now? He said, well, we're going to get £1 million. And I went, so your dad's actually going to give you £1 million for us? I don't think so. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I said, I think I need to seriously think what I want to do. He said, right, tomorrow morning, he said, come into London. And of course, Maxwell owned Daily Mirror, Sunday People, Sunday Mirror, etc. He said, my dad's coming in from France. Why don't you sit down and talk to my father? Okay. So I didn't like his father. He was just an absolute bully. And I met him a few times. And he used to, how can you like someone who eats food with their hands, like potatoes and all? Anyway, so I'm in there, I'm just getting angry by the second. And of course, I hear the helicopter lands opposite on the roof of the penthouse. And I'm sat in there in the penthouse with one or two other people around me, Brian Horton, my assistant, and stuff like that. And he came in. And the thing with Maxwell was there was no niceties. There was no, hello, how you doing? He just looked at me and he said, what? That's what he said to me, what? So I just came out this whole diatribe about, you can't just take our players from Derby and all that, from Oxford to Derby, all that kind of stuff. And I said, look, if I need to buy a new player now, they know we've got us £1 million, which we weren't going to get anyway, and all that kind of thing. And he looked at me and he waited a second and he said, you know what? He said, I quite admire what you're saying, but it's got absolutely F all to do with you, and walked out the building. I was gone then. I was gone. Good fun,
Any
though.
regrets? Oh, I bet you it was. But in terms of whether it be your managerial career, your playing career, Mark, any regrets? Anything you look back on and think,
No.
you know what? No.
Well, the only thing I would regret was when I injured my Achilles, I just came out from the back with the ball and my Achilles snapped. So if I hadn't had the ball, I might not have done it. But now you can, life's too short. But I mean, I loved it at Oxford, and I mean, players were older than me, and I always say to everybody that my best two signings, and they think, oh, Dean Saunders and all that. And I go, no. I said, the new irrigation system of the pitch and the Zanussi fridge in the office, I said, the only two things that worked on a regular basis.
What about the best player you ever came across? I know you've said Kenny Dalglish was a genius. Maybe then it would be a player that you came up against, or maybe a player that when you became a manager you saw on the football field. Who is the player that's made you go, wow, they're playing a different game?
Well, Kenny was the best player I ever played against, but also with. So that's easily dealt with. But remember when we went in that World Club Championship, and what was the Brazilian team? Flamengo?
Yeah, Flamengo, yeah.
Zico was, I mean, we've got lots of excuses because we flew to Tokyo for the game. You couldn't fly over Russian airspace. So I think our flight via Anchorage was 18 hours. We played the game at 3 o'clock in the morning, our time. And we were hopeless. We'd had a couple of beers as well, Chris, to be honest with you, on the plane. It wasn't taken that seriously. And I'll tell you how good he was. Graham Souness couldn't get anywhere near Zico to kick him. Couldn't get anywhere near him. He was like, wow. Proper wow.
The White Pele is what they called him. There's no doubt about that. What a player, what a story that is. In terms of your best game, the game that I guess when you look back on, you couldn't put a foot wrong. Is there any that stand out?
No, not really, because you always make mistakes. I mean, I think, because I said to you before that I just wanted to come and win trophies and stuff, which, I was really fortunate to win lots of. I think you just got to go European Cup. As I said, that, we won it away from home in the preliminary rounds, as it were, but also in the final. And I think when you can actually say that, you're a member of a team that's the best team in Europe, that would probably be it. I mean, there are days when you can't do anything wrong. I scored twice against Schiltz one day at home. Me and Ronnie Whelan scored twice each. We beat them 5, and I was playing at the back. But no, I just, that's one of the biggest achievements. And somebody sent me a picture today of the thing at Rome, and all lit up with the flares and everything, and you forget. And I would say that would be the one.
And do you, Laurel, again, I go back to the chat I had with Paul Lambert the other day. He said that the Champions League medal doesn't know where it is. For him, the memories is what he treasures more than any trophy or medal. Have you still got all your medals? Do you know where they are? Do you still get them out and look at them from time to time?
I don't get them out and look at them, but, I've recently moved. So they were all just like, it was just a whole room of stuff, all kinds of different stuff, shirts and everything like that. And I came across them just honestly 2 or 3 weeks ago. And my lad, Sam, who you've met, obviously, through the course of this the other day. And he was just saying, like, your name's not on them or anything like that, which is daft, isn't it? Really, when you think all those league winners' medals as well, you should actually put your name on, because it just would mean more. But no, and they're tiny and stuff like that. But it's, as soon as you see them, you it brings back the memories, obviously, and the stories and all those kind of things, certainly. And I said to Sam and my daughter Ruby as well that they should look after them, because if they need a few quid when I'm pop my clogs, they might be able to sell them maybe.
Last few minutes, Mark. You've given us an hour of your time, close to an hour. I can't thank you enough on that front. I want to pick up a story that you actually told me as we were coming live regarding the great Bob Paisley. You were telling me that you actually missed his funeral, but you got a letter from his wife. Give us a little bit more details on that, if you can.
Yeah, I think her name either Nessie or Sissy. I can't remember exactly, but I was out of the country. And obviously Bob signed me, and it was a big thing for me. And I mean that 900,000 plus VAT in those days was just massive money, because Kenny was the next at 450, so I doubled it. So he'd really kind of gone out on a limb for me, and he was brilliant. He really was brilliant. And I was never going to make the funeral, because I don't know whether I was working or away or whatever. So I wrote to his wife and just said how much I loved her husband, and what he did for my career and all that. I mean, he's such a gentleman and such a nice man and all kinds of things. And she wrote me a similar letter back saying, "Oh, well, he looked at you and he said, he said it's a bit like having your son play for you and all that kind of stuff." And I've got it, and what she did as well, Nessie, was she wrote on this piece of paper and got it laminated. Which, if you think about it, she's then thinking that I would want to keep it. And even if I found it and it was down the bottom of a drawer 20 years' time, the ink wouldn't have faded because it'd been laminated, which was fabulous, basically. So one of the best things I've ever had.
Oh, amazing. What an amazing story. And listen, Laurel, to take it back to present day, I'm looking forward to seeing you back on the sofa. You're going to be doing that at the BBC, of course. I know you're working with Liverpool TV as well. Football will be back in the space of 3 weeks. You'll be on Gary's couch again?
No, not so much Gary's couch. I'll be on Dan Walker's couch, I think. But hey, in honesty, Chris, how long we've been in lockdown? 9 weeks. I've been on the sofa for 9 weeks. Don't worry about that. I've not been doing much moving. Yeah, it's just what it is really is just the fact. You still, your brain still works because you've got to go to work and watch football and stuff. But it just gives you a reason to get up in the morning. But I don't know about you. I just feel that the moment every day is the same. So is it 12th of June? Or is it 17th? I'm not 17th, sorry. So the 17th of June, wow, we'll all be up early that day, won't we?
Oh, no doubt about it. And Liverpool are going to win this league title. Will it be an emotional day for you, Mark? I mean, I guess you don't know yet, but do you reckon you'll be emotional once they finally get over the line?
I don't think I've ever truly emotional. I'll be absolutely delighted. But it's just been such a long time, isn't it? And there is a thing, where like with ex-players that have been really successful at that club, and then the club struggles to win competitions, you actually turn into a better player. We have a real laugh about this. Every single year that Liverpool won the league, going, oh, they think we're brilliant now, and we actually knew how crap we could be as well at some stage. But no, I'm delighted for the football club because, when you think about the two jokers we got from America, Hicks and Gillette, a number of managers, we've been through all those kind of things. So I do believe, and I said to you, definitely right that it's all about players, and we've got some fabulous world-class players, but our manager has made a massive difference. And it was, although it was meant to be that he would come and eventually he would improve us, and it's something that he's done, and it's thoroughly deserved. I speak to loads of people who are supporters of all other teams, and they just say to you, I love your manager and I love watching his team play, which is all you want, isn't it?
Have you got a feeling, Mark? I know we're speculating wildly. It's what we, the journalists, love to do. But have you got a feeling this is the start of another golden era? I mean, it already is a Champions League success last year. But do you have a feeling that this is now Liverpool's time for the next few years?
Yeah, you would hope so. I'm pretty sure Manchester City have thought that as well every season, haven't they? And obviously they're going to slip up. So it's more and more difficult now to win the league. I think it's the most difficult competition of any competition anywhere, just because the intensity of the games, the number of the games, and the way that teams are organised against you and stuff like that. But you'd like to think so. I mean, it looks like we bought one or two kids for the future as well. He'll probably sign 2 or 3 players, I would have thought, in the off season, whenever that is. And as I said to you, Chris, before, it's easier now to attract the top players because we can pay the money, but also more importantly, we've just got a real good team and a fab manager. And if that doesn't attract you to play for Liverpool, then we don't really want you.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's an exciting time for Liverpool Football Club, Mark. Listen, I'm going to say bye to you in just a moment. My final one to you, if you can, because I know everyone viewing this right now, probably Liverpool fans. We've maybe got one Brighton fan on, but playing for Liverpool Football Club, put it into your words. What did that mean to you?
Well, it was a pinnacle of my career. I mean, I'm still a massive Preston fan because that's where I started, and my dad played. And I still go and watch, etc. But basically, I love playing for Preston. I love playing for Brighton. We had 4 years, really successful years, 2 promotions, etc. But Liverpool, playing for Liverpool is just like the business end of football. As entertaining and enjoyable as it was, you suddenly now, when you talk to me and you say about all the medals and competitions that you've won, it gives you a nice warm glow. And I don't know any other place like it. I know we all love our own supporters, etc. But I think that's why we attracted our manager that we've got, because he gets the whole thing about Liverpool. It's not just about players. It's not just about winning stuff. It's just about the city, one half of it. Had some tough times, but it's just a fabulous, fabulous place to be.
Well, when all this dies down as well, Mark, of course, you will be over in Dubai, Theatre by QE2. We'll be rolling out the red carpet. I would love to be back sitting with you, having a chat about all things football. The golf game as well, Mark. Do you still get out on the golf course every now and again?
No, I've not played for a while because I have a thing to do with my shoulders, which that's got a Latin name as well, Chris. Can't even remember what it is now, but it's a strange injury, and it can take 2 to 3 years to go. It's not life threatening or anything. I just haven't really swung the club for ages, and of course, even if I wanted to at the moment, apart from starting last Monday, I wouldn't have been able to play anyway. So I'm trying to keep fit instead.
Oh, good. You stay fit. Last one from me. How many goals did you score for Liverpool? Have a guess?
Don't know. I really don't know. 30s, 40s?
Oh, well, not
No?
certainly not from what I looked at. No, a lot lower than that. 18.
Oh, okay. Oh well, I must have thought career maybe. Only 18. Oh well. I tell you something though, they were all brilliant.
I bet you they were. I'm not going to argue with that. I'm not going to argue. Listen, Mark, it's been a real pleasure for me. I said I'd keep you 45. I've kept you for over an hour. It's been wonderful to reminisce. I'm not a Liverpool fan. I'm not going to tell you who I support, but I tell you what, they bloody deserve to win the title this season. They're going to do it. Enjoy the party. Enjoy the adult beverage when that moment and that day comes, Mark. And I look forward to catching up with you again very soon.
Thanks, mate. Pleasure. Enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure. Mark Lawrenson, a Liverpool legend, over 350 appearances for the club. You've heard everything tonight from Graham Souness. His bite most certainly was as bad as his bark. Kenny Dalglish, a genius, the best player that he has played with or against, reminiscing as well about his success in 1984. A real pleasure to be joined by Mark Lawrenson. A massive thank you to Theatre by QE2, by Outside the Box events, by Big Fish Comedy, by Book My Show, as well as H2 Productions. And of course, lastly, a massive thank you to each and every one of you tuning into this live Facebook for the past, over an hour I've kept you this Saturday evening. I appreciate there's a number of things you could be doing, but it's been brilliant to have you with us. Do make sure to tune in back on this very Facebook platform on Monday evening, 7:30. Tim Elliott will be replacing me in the hot seat. He's going to be in conversation with an MJ tribute act. Looking forward to that. I will be back next Saturday for you golf fans out there. I'm going to be joined by Bernard Gallagher, as well as Stephen Gallagher, a two-time winner of the Omega Dubai Desert Classic. That is Bernard's nephew, is what it is. So we'll talk all things golf at the same time next week. We do have a competition winner as well. It was 18 goals, incidentally, that Mark did score during his Liverpool career. We've got a winner on that as well. We will get that, the winner will be reached out to, with the team will be ensuring that you will be getting that shirt, courtesy of the guys here, LFC Retail. A massive thank you to you once again. A massive thank you to Mark Lawrenson again as well. Thank you so much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. A massive thanks again to all of our partners, and a massive thanks to you. And we'll do it all over again next Saturday from 6 p.m. Monday evening, though, Tim Elliott, tune in for that. Thank you.